Welcome to Strong and Nourished Momma, the podcast dedicated to helping busy moms thrive. I'm Val, functional sports dietitian, prenatal and postpartum fitness coach, and first-time mama. I'm here to guide you on a wellness journey with simple, practical strategies to keep you feeling strong, nourished, and energized every day. Whether you're juggling work, family, or finding time for yourself, I'll share tips on nutrition, health, and wellness tailored just for moms. So if you're ready to feel empowered and recharged, let's dive in to today's episode and start building a stronger, more nourished you. Enjoy the show. Hey mamas, I'm Val Warner, the Strong and Nourished Momma podcast host. Welcome to my very first episode. I am so excited to have finally launched my podcast. I have so much information I want to share with you all. This has been something I've been wanting to do for the last 2.5, 3 years. So the fact that it is finally happening is surreal and super exciting. Thank you for being here and thank you for your support. I first want to begin with introductions. I want to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my history and my journey, and why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place. So I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and growing up, I was very active. My family and I were very active, whether it was with sports or just playing around in the front yard, riding bikes, playing basketball. I played soccer. I eventually started running cross country when I was in high school, and I loved movement. I loved exercise. It was so fun. It never felt like a chore or something that I had to do. It wasn't a punishment for eating certain foods either. It was fun. I'm so grateful I had a childhood where the focus wasn't on counting calories, what I could or couldn't eat, or I had to exercise to make sure I fit into a specific size, or any of that BS, honestly. And unfortunately, that's not very common, especially with young girls and especially today with social media. But because I enjoyed movement and I truly loved it, I wanted to learn more about it. So this influenced my decision to get my bachelor's degree in exercise science and a minor in nutrition. I first thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, but that quickly changed when I had to go to physical therapy for myself. I decided, okay, this is not for me. This is not something I want to do. So I'm actually happy that that's something that I figured out early on in my college career. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. What do I want to do, or what do I want to be when I grow up? So in the exercise science program, I remember all of the classes were very fun. I loved them. There was this specific class that stood out to me, Designs for Fitness. And in this class, we learned exercise testing protocols, how to create programs for clients, or how to perform different body composition tests, such as the skin fold caliper test or a bioelectrical impedance analysis, the DEXA, as well as underwater weighing. So it was a lot of fun learning all these different techniques and tests. In this class, we also had to get our blood work done and be able to assess our results. So that was something that we were learning, is what were the conventional ranges of the biomarkers that we were assessing. So the blood work that we got done was a standard lipid panel and a fasting glucose and a hemoglobin A1C. In your standard lipid panel, you have your total cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, low density lipoproteins, your HDL cholesterol, your high density lipoproteins, and your triglycerides. So your triglycerides are your stored fat or your fat within the bloodstream. Your LDL is considered commonly labeled as the bad cholesterol, and your HDL is commonly labeled as the good cholesterol. And in a future episode, I can describe these tests and other types of blood tests and biomarkers and what they mean. The hemoglobin A1C is looking at how well you're metabolizing glucose or sugar over the last 3 months. And so we're testing the hemoglobin on the red blood cell. I thought my results were going to be great. I was super excited. I was ready to get them back and interpret my results. But when I got my results back, they were not good. They were not within normal range. And I was very surprised. My LDL cholesterol, or my bad cholesterol, was elevated. My fasting glucose was 99. And in the conventional range, you want your fasting glucose less than 100. But if we're actually looking at healthy, optimal ranges. For fasting glucose, we like to see that 75 to 85 and maybe 90. Mine was 99. So I was on the cusp, and there was definitely some metabolic dysfunction and glucose dysregulation going on. My triglycerides, with the conventional range, you want to be less than 150. And my results, I had 168 triglycerides. Again, if we're looking at optimal healthy ranges, we actually want our triglycerides less than 100. So I'm in my early 20s. I get my blood work done. I think it's going to be great and I'm going to be able to assess it and move on. But my results were not where I wanted them to be. And because I have a family history of type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease, this really raised a red flag for me. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't influencing my genes with my behaviors, my lifestyle, and my environment to where these genes turn on. This is known as epigenetics, where your behaviors, your lifestyle, and your environment influence your genes. And because of my blood work and because of my current lifestyle, I knew I needed to make some changes. So I was in my early 20s. I was in college. I was definitely drinking a lot of alcohol. I was a bartender and a server, so I was staying up very late. Even when I wasn't working, I was staying up late. So sleep wasn't my priority, especially like it is now. So I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating great. I was eating at the restaurant. I was eating lots of processed foods and fun foods. And it's not that we can't eat these foods, but I was overdoing it. And so when I got my results back, I looked at my results. I saw that they were well out of range. And given my family history, I knew I had to start making some changes. Now, around this time, I got a job as a paid student intern in corporate wellness, and I worked primarily with exercise physiologists under the main exercise physiologist on the team. And I continued to learn a lot more about exercise science since that was my degree. And it was amazing, but I also had the opportunity to work with registered dietitians, a sports dietitian, and certified diabetes educators, as well as sleep educators and stress educators. So I was very lucky to have gotten this job in undergrad, and it was a paid position, and I was able to learn so much from exercise physiologists and other healthcare providers. Because I also worked with a variety of nutrition professionals and registered dietitians, I started diving into the nutrition world head first. And because exercise and nutrition and lifestyle go hand in hand, it worked great. And I was definitely taking nutrition courses because it was part of the exercise science program and I was getting my minor in nutrition. And so I was learning how to help people with both nutrition, their exercise, and to improve their health or reach specific goals. So my love for nutrition continued to grow. And I also got the opportunity to volunteer with UNM's sports dietitian at the time, where I was sitting in on one-on-one consults with a variety of different athletes, whether it was football, basketball, soccer, track and field, cross country, whether they were learning how to optimize their performance or how to balance school and their schedule with sports and where they're going to fit in certain meals. I also helped running the fueling stations on campus, and a fueling station is basically a station or a spot on campus where students can go, they can grab snacks and other foods. The fueling station at UNM was where they were commonly hanging out. So I helped run the fueling stations. I helped create handouts and other educational resources for athletes. And it was so much fun. And I was thinking, okay, I want to be a sports registered dietitian. So as I continued working more with different dietitians and continuing my undergrad courses and also putting into practice with what I'm learning in my own lifestyle and my own life so that I can improve my lipid panel and my glucose and my overall health, I realized I couldn't do anything with a nutrition minor. I wouldn't be able to help people improve their nutrition and the detail that I wanted to. So I decided, okay, you know what? We're going to get rid of the minor and I'm going to double major. I'm going to get 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, one in exercise science, one in nutrition and dietetics. And it worked out because a lot of the classes for both bachelors were the same. I had to take a little bit extra, of course, but it worked out. And now with both of these degrees, I will have the knowledge and the foundation to be able to do what I want to do, which is at the time sports dietetics and improve my overall health. So I found out what I wanted to be when I grew up. a sports dietitian. Now, what does it take to become a registered dietitian? Well, a registered dietitian is a licensed health professional specializing in nutrition and diet. After you get your undergrad or your bachelor's degree in nutrition, the process is applying to dietetic internships, which is a 9-month unpaid internship with different type of rotations. It's a full-time job, essentially. The rotations that I did were, of course, my clinical rotation in a local hospital. I did my community and food service rotation in corporate wellness, where I was currently working at the time. And I did my elective rotation at the Eating Disorder Treatment Center. After you complete the internship, then you then sit for the board exam. You become licensed once you pass the exam, and you're a registered dietitian. As I was reaching graduation for my degrees, my undergrad, I started to apply to different internships. And my plan was to apply to Colorado internships so that I can get in-state tuition. And once I had in-state tuition, I would be able to attend a sports nutrition master's program in Colorado. So this was my plan. So I don't apply to any other internships except for some in Colorado. And I didn't get accepted to any of them. And I was very hurt. I was shocked. I had a great experience with current dietitians that I worked with and my volunteer. And I was like, okay, my dream has been crushed. What am I going to do now? I have to wait a whole nother year to apply to a dietetic internship. Luckily, at the time, one of my coworkers was telling me about distance dietetic internships. So I had this very narrow window where I could apply to another internship to see if I would get in for that year. And I applied to a dietetic internship and I got in. And it was a distance internship with the University of Delaware. For this internship, a distance meaning I am doing all of my rotations and my internship where I currently live, even though the university is in another state. So I went to Delaware for a week. I was able to see the campus and meet other students, and I met some really great people. And then I came back home and I started my internships. And so with a distance internship, you have to choose your rotations. So I chose my rotations, as I explained, the rotations that I did. After the internship, you're supposed to sit for the exam. I waited almost a full year to sit for the exam, just with work and other things going on in my life, and I didn't pass the first time I took it. So I'm thinking, here I go again. My dream is crushed. But luckily, I had great support with my friends, my family, my mentors, and the dietitians that I worked with. And so I studied really hard. I took it again right when I could, and I passed. So I became a registered dietitian in 2019. I had my exercise science and my nutrition degrees. So I was back on track with what I wanted to do and who I wanted to become when I grew up. So I continued working in corporate wellness. I also worked at a local gym in Albuquerque, and I was their dietitian for a little bit. And then once I was able to get full-time at the corporate wellness where I currently am, that's when one of my mentors encouraged me to get my master's. And she encouraged me to get my master's in human nutrition and functional medicine from University of Western States. So I applied, I got in, and I actually started the master's program in spring of 2020. So right when shit hit the fan, for a lack of better explanation of that time period. But it was actually perfect because there was nothing going on. Everything was shut down and I was able to focus on my master's and I loved it. It took me 2 years to get my master's. I got it in functional nutrition, or human nutrition and functional medicine to be specific. And I plan to do a future episode on functional medicine and all of the great things that I learned. Now, some of the courses that I took in that program, of course, introductions to functional medicine, detoxification, hormones, gastrointestinal imbalances. I learned so much, and I was falling in love with nutrition all over again because I didn't even know any of this existed at the time. And of course, I had my mentor who went through the same program and who actually helped facilitate classes in the program. So I learned a lot already from her. But then I was able to go into the master's program. I was also working full time, so I was able to put everything into practice as I was learning it. And we didn't learn any of this in undergrad, none of it. So luckily, I was able to become a student member of a dietetic practice practice group, which is a group under the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, so for registered dietitian professionals. And I became a member of Dietitians in Integrative and Functional Medicine, where I currently am a member and I currently help volunteer with, which I absolutely love. I was able to learn more from this dietetic practice group through the dietitians there, the resources they had, my mentor and my classes, and it was phenomenal. So with all of this information and this knowledge, I currently help my clients today, and I plan to be able to share this information with you all with future episodes. So I get my master's, I get married, and I'm helping my clients in corporate wellness with a variety of different things, whether it's they want to improve their exercise performance, they have a race coming up, whatever type of race that it is, or they're training for a CrossFit competition, or they want to help balance their blood sugars, they have a family history, so just like me. And let's rewind a second. So after I was learning all of this information and diving into the nutrition world, I was able to put everything into practice. And 2 years after I got my blood drawn in college, where I had those really out of range results and very concerning results for someone who was in their early 20s, I got my blood work done again, and I was so happy because my triglycerides went from 168 to 58. My fasting glucose went from 99 to 85. My LDL, I can't remember the specific numbers, which it is kind of funny that I remember all of the numbers, but it was in the elevated range and it went into that optimal range. So what I was doing was working, and I wasn't restricting myself in the process. I was learning to find balance with my overall lifestyle, with work, with school, all of the demands that I had at the time and continue to have now, and balancing it with food and movement. So not going into over exercising and under eating or saying I couldn't eat specific foods. I loved movement. I love nutrition. So I wanted to make sure I was very careful when it came to improving my overall health. I wanted to go about it the right way. And this is something that I currently do with my clients. Fast forward, my husband and I are ready to start a family, and I want to try and get pregnant. Now, at the time, I had the copper IUD, which is also known as the Paragard. It's the non-hormonal IUD. And I remember I took it out in July, and I didn't want to start trying right away. One, we had some trips coming up, and I wanted to be able to go on these trips, and I didn't want to get pregnant yet. And I wanted to give my body time to adjust. I was on the IUD for a few years, and even though I was still ovulating, because it's a non-hormonal IUD, I still had a foreign device in my body. And interestingly, something that I have learned is as copper increases in the body, which it will if you have a copper IUD or the Paragard, estrogen increases. And this can lead to estrogen dominance, or in other words, there's just more estrogen in the body than there's supposed to be, or we're not detoxifying or getting rid of our estrogen adequately. So because of this, I wanted to give my body time to adjust without the IUD and for my body to have time to detoxify. Another reason is the preconception period, especially the 3 months before you get pregnant, is a very important time. It takes about 3 months for the egg and the ovaries to fully mature. 3 months. And the same goes for the sperm in men. So the 3 months preconception is very important when it comes to our lifestyle, our behaviors. What are we doing to support our health so that we can support your eggs, or if you're a man, your sperm, so that you can, whenever you do get pregnant, it's starting from a very healthy beginning. So after waiting and allowing my body to adjust, we're ready to start trying, and I got pregnant in December of 2022. Now, before this, I was working with nutrition clients who were either thinking about getting pregnant, they were currently pregnant, or they were returning from maternity leave and they wanted to improve their nutrition and their overall health. A lot of the times I'm getting women who are pregnant and they learn about the resources where they're working. They come see me and they tell me, hey, I'm pregnant and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do to support my baby. So I knew how to help these women. In fact, that's what I was doing, but I didn't really understand what the women were going through because I hadn't been pregnant myself. So leading up to my journey of wanting to try and conceive, and then once I conceived, I was diving in again, head first, into the research and all of the resources that I can find, especially for optimal health when it came to preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum. And this really, really helped me because I was able to put it into practice again. And I believe that's very important, is practice what you preach. So I was able to put into practice what I was learning because I was currently pregnant, and I was doing so before I even got pregnant. And the same goes for exercise, because a lot of the times when we start exercising, let's say we have a regular workout routine or schedule, whatever we're doing. Maybe there's some cardio, there's some weights, and we get pregnant. We think, oh no, do I need to stop what I'm doing? Is it safe to continue to exercise? And so I wanted to make sure that I was knowledgeable in that area. So I was learning more in the nutrition, functional medicine world, as well as with movement and exercise. I found this really important because at the time I was exercising regularly. I was going to CrossFit, I would go to kickboxing, I would go to hot yoga, I would go on some runs. I was regularly exercising. And especially with weight training, I was lifting some pretty heavy weights. And I wanted to learn how to continue that throughout pregnancy. So I became certified in both pregnancy and postpartum athleticism and birth fit within the year that I was pregnant. So I got 2 exercise certifications to help moms preconception, during pregnancy, and postpartum. And I learned so much information, and I'm so grateful that I got these certifications. And I currently help moms today, whether they're pregnant or they're postpartum, I help them with their movement and how to incorporate that, as well as their nutrition. And this is very important to me because often I hear clients tell me, Val, I regularly weight lifted and exercised before I got pregnant, but my midwife told me that I can't lift over 20 pounds while being pregnant. And I'm like, hold up, what? Who's your midwife? I need to have a conversation with this person because that is unacceptable and it is not true. Let's say you are grabbing the diaper bag and the car seat and your purse and your toddler. Girlfriend, you are going to be lifting a hell of a lot more than 20 pounds. Okay. And especially because you were weightlifting before you got pregnant, that doesn't mean you have to stop what you're doing. It actually means you can continue to do what you were doing. And I plan to have future episodes on all of these topics. So again, I have so much information to share with you. I'm getting ahead of myself and I can't wait for it. So while I was pregnant, I was continuing to learn more. I was working full time, and I was reminded by one of my mentors that I wanted to be a sports dietitian. And I was thinking, you know what? I don't know if I want to do it anymore. That ship has sailed. And she was like, well, you have a functional medicine background. You can bring the two together. Why not? And we were at CrossFit at 5:30 in the morning talking about this. And I was like, okay, you know what? You're right. I'm going to become a sports dietitian. I already have all the hours needed to become board certified. And so I started studying, and I brought in one of my coworkers because she wanted to do the same thing. So it was perfect. We studied together. And then in April of 2023, we sat for the board exam, we passed, and now we are sports dietitians. So one of my dreams came true, and I was so excited, and it was kind of awesome that I was able to do that while working full time and being pregnant. So I'm glad that I did that in the middle of pregnancy and not towards the end, because that would have been very hard to do. Throughout my pregnancy, I am continuing to exercise and focus on my nutrition, prepare for what's known as the 4th trimester, which is the 3 months postpartum. I'm thinking I want to help other women. I want to be able to support them on their preconception, pregnancy, and postpartum journey. And if you've had a kid, you're going to be postpartum forever, right? But initially, those first 3 months are going to be really important. But I'm talking to anyone who has a kid, who is a mom. And that's why I wanted to start this podcast. My mission is to guide mamas, to guide you on your wellness journey through simplified and balanced nutrition so that you can become the strong and nourished mama you were meant to be. I want to be able to help moms improve their nutrition. I want to be able to help moms find balance with all of the demands of motherhood, which we know there are so many demands of motherhood. And my goodness, how do we do it? Kudos to us. We are rock stars, and I want to support everyone. In this podcast, you will find easy ways to navigate your health and wellness through a holistic lens. So I'm bringing in my functional nutrition background, I'm bringing in my sports nutrition background, my exercise background, and each episode will be packed with practical tips, real life strategies, and expert advice to help you nourish your body, boost your energy, and feel your best, all while keeping things realistic and manageable. That's what I want to help you do, and that's why I started this podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my story and for tuning in, and I can't wait to share all of this amazing information with you. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Strong and Nourished Mama. If you enjoyed today's show and found value in it, I would love for you to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback helps me reach more mamas like you, and I truly appreciate your support. Stay strong, stay nourished, and I'll see you next time.